Psychokinesis, 2018. Imagine waking up one day and somehow finding yourself with incredible, almost superhuman powers. That's exactly what happens to the hero of today's story. Our tale begins with a girl named Rumi, who ran a fairly popular fried chicken restaurant. She never got the chance to go to college because it was only her mother who raised her. Her father had walked out on the family when she was just a child. One day, Rumi and the other shop owners in her neighborhood ran into serious trouble. A company called Tyson had decided to seize the land where their shop stood, planning to build a shopping mall in its place. None of these small business owners were given any compensation for their losses. One night, hired thugs broke into their building and dragged Rumi out of her own home by force. Her mother rushed out to help her escape, but the goons shoved her too and she fell hard onto the ground. The fall was so severe that she lost consciousness instantly. Rumi and the others rushed her to the hospital right away, but tragically, she passed away during treatment. Around that same time, a strange meteor fell from the sky and crashed into the mountains, and its impact filled the river flowing down from those mountains with a mysterious energy. The next morning, Rumi's father, Shin, unknowingly drank water from that very river, and it tasted oddly strange. He then went to the bank where he worked as a security guard. Soon after, he began feeling a sharp pain in his stomach, likely caused by that strange water. He ended up teaching a maid at the office how to sneak out small items, but she got greedy and stole way too much in one go, which got her caught. Shin saw the whole thing happen but chose to walk away without saying anything. That evening at a restaurant, his stomach pain suddenly intensified. All at once, everything around him started floating in the air. Tables and chairs flipped over and crashed by themselves. Strangely, right after that, his pain disappeared completely. But the restaurant owner, blaming him for the damage, shoved him out the door. A little while later, Shin returned to his small, run-down home. He lay down and put a cigarette in his mouth, and as he reached for his lighter, it flew straight into his hand on its own. He was stunned. But before he could process what had just happened, he got a call from his daughter. She told him that her mother had died. He put on an old suit and went to the funeral, where he barely even recognized his own daughter. After all, he hadn't seen Rumi since he'd abandoned the family years ago. Suddenly, a man named President Mina showed up, the leader of the company's hired thugs. The moment Rumi saw him, she was consumed with rage, but Mina insisted that her mother's death was her own fault and that the company had nothing to do with it. Furious, Rumi was about to attack him when the company's lawyer, Kim, stepped in and stopped her. As he was leaving, Mina arrogantly tried to hand Rumi some money, but she threw it right back in his face. After that, Shin went to see Rumi's restaurant and was heartbroken by the state of ruin it was in. In a fit of anger, he punched the air, and to his shock, a huge pile of garbage behind him went flying. That's when he remembered the lighter incident from earlier, and he rushed home. Sure enough, the lighter kept flying back into his hand over and over, proving that somehow he had genuinely gained these strange powers. Within moments, he managed to make every object in his house float at once. That's when an idea struck him. He could become a magician and make a fortune with these powers. The next day, after burying her mother, Rumi went to the marketplace with her father and friends, where all the other shop owners were hiding in fear of the company's thugs, who kept showing up to vandalize their stores. Kim urged everyone to stay calm, telling them he was in talks with the police. But the shopkeepers doubted that would help. They believed this company was powerful enough to buy off the law itself. Some argued they needed to fight back with force, just like the thugs did. Kim, however, knew that resorting to violence would only make them look worse in the eyes of the law. Shin spoke up, saying there was no point fighting anymore and that everyone should just look for new jobs instead. This enraged the group, and Rumi herself threw him out. That evening, Shin went looking for work at a circus, and thanks to his powers, he was hired almost instantly. The next day, Rumi learned that her mother's official cause of death was listed as an accidental injury, and worse, she had no real evidence against the company. Even the people who had recorded video footage of the incident had been bought off by the company. Later, Shin came to see her and told her that since he was earning money now, she should go back and finish her education. He even showed off some bizarre magic tricks to prove it. But Rumi didn't believe a word of it. Angrily, she told him he was just wasting his time because he had abandoned her and her mother when they needed him most. And because of that, she had hated him ever since. Shin tried to explain that he'd left because of his debts, hoping to spare them further hardship, but Rumi refused to listen. She told him it was far too late to start acting like a father now, and walked away. Just then, she spotted the company's thugs preparing to attack the shops again. Word spread quickly among the shopkeepers, who tried to block the road to stop them. But the thugs smashed through everything and stormed inside, beating people as they went. Suddenly, Shin appeared and used his powers to send every single thug flying through the air, shattering their bones in the process. Stunned by this display of power, they backed off in fear. One of them tried to charge forward, but Shin twisted his arm from a distance and left him dangling in midair. Right then, the police arrived and arrested both the shopkeepers and the thugs, hauling everyone off to the station, where each side blamed the other. The officer eventually decided to review the security footage, which clearly showed everything that had happened. But he simply couldn't believe his own eyes. How could he possibly write a report saying people were being thrown around in midair? Frustrated and confused, he sent everyone home. All the shopkeepers walked out pretending to be upset, but secretly they were overjoyed, because for the first time they had actually managed to beat the thugs. Still, Rumi remained angry at her father. Later that evening, outside the market, the very same thugs were sitting around when they noticed trash floating in the air on its own. When their own car started lifting off the ground too, they panicked and fled the scene. In reality, Shin was quietly using his powers to build a strong barricade so no thug could reach the shops again. When Kim asked him about his powers, Shin told him he believed his late wife had sent them to him from heaven. Later on, Kim told Rumi that her father only wanted to protect her in his own way, and that despite everything, he truly loved her deeply. Meanwhile, the thugs went back to their leader and admitted they could no longer stand up to Shin. The next day, Rumi made a video appealing to the public for help, and she finally agreed to talk things through with her father. She was worried, though, that using these powers might end up hurting his body. Meanwhile, the leader of the thugs went to speak with the company's owner, but she had her own men beat him up instead, punishing him for failing to clear the land. To avoid any blame falling on herself, she even pretended to scream in fear. Soon after, news of Shin's powers spread across television, and the media painted him as a spy working for North Korea. 2 days later, the police came to take Shin away, accusing him of theft at the bank. He went along with them without resistance, but the officer, without any real investigation, threw him straight into jail. Meanwhile, Kim discovered that someone connected to the company had confessed, for a price, to being responsible for Rumi's mother's death. This conveniently cleared the company of all legal trouble. It turned out this was all part of the owner's scheme. She was secretly setting up a new company through the thugs, planning to seize the land through legal means instead. She had also bribed the police and had Shin locked away, clearing every obstacle from her path. With that, all the thugs, led by their boss, moved in to finally take over the land. Kim rushed to warn Rumi and urged her to run, but she was determined to fight until the very end. Meanwhile, the company owner visited Shin in jail and offered him a deal. If he agreed to work for her company, she'd get him released. If he refused, she threatened to make sure the public saw him as a traitor to his country. Outside, the police, acting on the company's orders, began tearing down the barricade. Rumi and the other shopkeepers fought back using small explosives to hold them off, but the police brought in a bulldozer and started digging through everything. As the shopkeepers scrambled to save themselves, Rumi noticed a man trapped in the rubble and rushed to save him. Just then, a massive explosion went off, throwing them both to the side, and bystanders rushed in to help. Eventually, the police broke through into the market. Rumi and the remaining shopkeepers tried desperately to keep the doors shut, knowing they needed to reach the rooftop, otherwise the police would surely throw them all in jail. Meanwhile, in his cell, Shin used his powers to snatch a guard's phone and watch the chaos unfolding live. He couldn't bear the thought of abandoning his daughter again. Without hesitation, he broke free of his handcuffs and blasted a massive hole through the prison wall with his powers. He crashed down through a window and immediately used his abilities to send a security vehicle flying to pieces. Then he began to fly, and within moments, he was soaring through the sky at incredible speed. But he lost control and slammed straight into a building, plummeting toward the ground. Thinking only of his daughter, he leapt forward again and again, much like a superhero, pushing on relentlessly. Meanwhile, Rumi and the others had made it to the rooftop, but one man slipped and ended up dangling from a ladder. The police tried to knock him down by spraying him with water, but Shin arrived just in time to save his life. He then made another massive leap to rescue more people, but the smoke blinded him, and he crashed into a police crane, accidentally landing inside a room packed full of officers. They all surrounded him at once, but with a single burst of power, he sent every one of them flying backward. He then took off again, determined to complete his mission. Meanwhile, Kim was helping everyone cross from one rooftop to another, using a ladder, but Rumi fell behind and was captured by the police. More officers soon arrived and began beating the shopkeepers mercilessly. Just then, Shin arrived at the scene and, with a single powerful blast, sent every one of them flying far away. Even thousands of policemen combined couldn't match his strength. After dealing with them, he used his powers to lift every single shopkeeper to safety, all at once. Now he needed to find his daughter, but she was trapped inside a crane compartment that was about to come crashing down. Just as a police officer was about to fall from the doorway, Rumi reached out and helped him. At that exact moment, Shin arrived and used his strength to safely lift the entire compartment onto the rooftop. During the chaos, Rumi lost her footing and began to fall, but Shin caught her just before she hit the ground. After apologizing to his daughter one final time, Shin surrendered himself to the police. A full 4 years later, he was finally released from prison. When he returned, he found that the old shops were completely gone. The company had suffered such massive losses that the mall project never happened at all. He then made his way to a brand new restaurant, one that Rumi had named Super Power Chicken. So here's a question for you. If you suddenly had superpowers, would you use them for your own benefit or for the good of others? Let me know your honest answer in the comments.